So, Smile 2 was written and directed by Parker Finn, and it stars Naomi Scott as a woman played named Sky Riley. She's a singer, she's going on this world tour and such, and she becomes the latest victim of the Smile curse that we saw in the very first Smile movie. And she becomes insane, she tries to figure out how to stop this curse and such, and we have a new Smile movie. So, this was a movie that, admittedly, I was not really looking forward to as much. I have mixed feelings about the first Smile movie. I think I gave it 2.5 out of 4 stars when I reviewed it a couple years ago. I felt like it was kind of this weird mix where it tried to be a little bit of Hereditary, but a little bit of Sam Raimi at the same time. Like the acting was fine. Some scares were kind of given away in the trailer and such, and I kind of felt like, it was just an okay movie. Nothing really special. I did watch it again to prepare for this movie, and I thought it was a little bit better than I remember, but I still have my issues with it. So I went in this movie not really caring too much. I wasn't really excited for it. And honestly, I'm glad I actually saw this movie. I think this movie is a lot better than Smile 1. I think it kind of takes a lot of the ideas that the first movie did and tried to expand on them a bit, tried to heighten the tension a bit. I do think this is a much better movie. So let's start off with the things I do like. First off, the acting. Naomi Scott. I thought she was incredible in this movie. I've only seen Naomi Scott in a couple things, like mainly the Aladdin remake where I thought she was good. Here I thought she was great. I really liked her character. I was really interested in like what she was doing, how she was going to handle the situation and such, and how kind of like she kind of loses her mind while this whole thing is happening. I thought she carried this whole movie perfectly. Among the other standouts, Rosemary DeWitt plays her mother in times. Like she's really creepy throughout this entire movie, and does she doesn't really get a chance to be evil, but like you can definitely tell she's being very passive aggressive. I thought she did a really good job. Ray Nicholson, I thought he was pretty creepy. I also kind of like with this movie too, a lot of the actors are at least given opportunities to actually be part of the entity, and they're actually do a very good job of being creepy throughout this entire movie. The opening sequence of this movie is really well done. I was kind of curious to see like after the first movie, it's like, okay, so this movie doesn't look like it's going to follow the first movie at all. It's kind of something completely random from the first movie. Oh, okay, this is how they kind of tie those things together. And it's actually very well done, and I didn't expect it to be presented in the way that it was. I thought that was very well handled, and it was pretty shocking to see. Well, maybe not shocking, but it was like, it actually looked like that, Parker Finn was actually more interested in like what kind of camera movements he can do rather than just turning things upside down. But I'll talk about that. There are admittedly some very good scares in this movie. I would say there were better scares in this movie than I expected. Honestly, the scares in the trailers, yeah, those are not just the scares in the entire movie. There are actually some really good scares in this movie. Sure, they're jump scares, but like I say, they're very effective jump scares. I thought there were so many moments where I was watching this movie and kind of just caught me off guard, and I was like, okay, you got me, movie. You actually got me. There are some actual decent scares in this movie. There are some pretty gruesome movie moments in this movie too. It's like I just saw Terrifier like the day before. I'm like, do I need any more gruesome imagery? Please stop. It's definitely a lot. There's definitely a lot more that they can do with a movie like this. There's definitely more money to it, and I feel like this is kind of like what Parker Finn maybe wanted to do with this project, but he just couldn't because he didn't really have the money to do it. And I think this movie kind of shows that. Everything is kind of heightened from the scares to the storyline to the themes to pretty much everything about it. Everything about it feels like it's a much better version of the movie. The themes themselves are pretty interesting as well. Like, obviously, if you saw the first movie, it kind of was about, how people deal with trauma and such. I do think that's also very well handled, but it's definitely not just a recreation of the first character's storyline and such. I do think it's very well done. I do think that is very interesting, and the movie doesn't, like, try to spoon feed you. They do a few flashbacks here and there, which can be a bit annoying and kind of feel out of place at times, but they don't at least just say it out loud. They kind of, like, let you put the puzzle pieces together yourself. And I will say this, the movie is just not a carbon copy of the first movie. I was kind of worried it's like, oh, there's another Smile movie coming out. It's just going to be the same as the first one. And while there are definitely some moments here and there, it's not just a movie where it's like copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. I do think the movie at least tries to be its own thing. And also, the music itself is pretty well done. The music, the score, I thought that was very well done. It kind of felt like it was kind of took a lot of inspiration from like 80s movies and such that kind of were maybe influenced this and such. And also the music done by Naomi Scott. I thought she did a really good job as well. I thought she was one of the better parts of Aladdin. I do think her character is definitely very well done here, and I do think her singing is also very interesting. I do think her singing is very well done. I maybe would actually, if this was an actual album, maybe I would actually listen to it, but it's not, unfortunately. But let's talk about some of the things I don't like. I do think there are a few pacing issues here and there. Like, there are some moments where it's like, I kind of want some things to wrap up and kind of like some things to tighten a little bit. But the movie is over 2 hours, and I feel like it doesn't really need to be. There are definitely some scenes where it's like, okay, you could have like cleaned this up a little bit, but no, you have to extend it by a little bit. And I will admit, even though I said it's not just a carbon copy of the first movie, there are without a doubt similarities, and that is one of the most annoying thing about sequels in general. They kind of just do things again in the second movie, and it's just kind of annoying. And it's especially annoying for a movie like this because the first movie came out only 2 years ago, and there are moments, particularly, I won't spoil it, but by the third act, there are some moments that are just a little too similar. I'm like, oh, come on. Oh, come on. Oh, come on. But it's just kind of annoying when you kind of just watch the third act and you're like, wow, a lot of this does remind me of the first Smile movie in the worst possible way. So even though I do think the actors do a fantastic job, Naomi Scott's character, you definitely sympathize with her character. You kind of realize she's working through a lot of stuff in this movie. I do think she does a fantastic job. The opening sequence is good. The scares are much better than the first movie. Everything is heightened a little bit more, and the themes are very interesting. The music is very well done, and it definitely tries to do its own thing every once in a while. That's very well done. But I do argue the movie is a bit too long, and the third act definitely has a lot of similarities to the very first movie, which I'm like, you were doing so well for the first two acts, so why do you have to, copy paste from the first movie? It definitely, I wouldn't say it's a letdown, but I definitely say it's noticeable. I would definitely recommend this movie. Something else I've noticed is that the marketing for this movie has not really been as good as the first movie. I think the first movie's marketing actually helped that movie do well at the box office. And I feel like this movie's potential doesn't really have like a great marketing campaign. And after watching the movie, I'm like, why aren't they investing more in this? I think the marketing would be really good for a movie like this, but no, they're not really doing anything with it. And that's kind of annoying to me. But that's just a side note. But I'll give Smile 2 3 out of 4 stars. See it. So, what's your favorite horror movie sequel? Comment down below, subscribe to the channel. This is Pat. Stay safe.